On Thursday, Chattanooga Mayor Tim Kelly stopped by our studio here at WUTC for our latest conversation. Chattanooga Mayor Tim Kelly, welcome.
How are you, Ray?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Doing great.
Let's start with the budget, proposed budget for the next fiscal year, which begins in July. No rate hike in that budget proposal, but you've also indicated that your administration plans to come back to the City Council after the budget passes to ask for a budget amendment that would fund pay raises for police and firefighters.
Yes, that's right. I mean, unfortunately, we have fallen behind yet again. You know, you might remember ancient history now, but 4 and some odd years ago, I mean, there was a pay study that would catch up our police and firefighters, and I had to give them at that point a 24% raise. We bumped the property tax a little bit, and substantially all of that increase was just to fund that raise. And here we are in the same situation again. We've had 22% inflation in the last 4-ish years, and we are not competitive with any of our regional cities. And so we are going to have to come back and do that. Again, we are looking at other ways that we can streamline and cut budget. I mean, obviously we're not going to bump that rate if we don't have to. And just to remind people, you know, the appraisals have come in, they're all much, much higher, but the state will equalize that rate. And that's what we're waiting for now, is a certified rate that in the aggregate would equalize revenue. Notably, however, that equalized revenue is not adjusted for inflation, right? So, I mean, that puts us back in 2021 dollars, which are quite literally worth 22% less than today's dollars. So, hence the trick bag that we're all in. But we're working through that. In the meantime, we're going to pass a flat budget and tighten our belts and gut it out.
And just to clarify this, why is this coming later and not now? Is that because of the reappraisals or other factors?
That's it. I mean, we have to wait on the state's certified rate to come back, even though the reappraisals are out, and we won't get it until probably sometime in June.
Let's talk about other priorities in the proposed budget: public safety, beyond pay, and infrastructure.
Yeah. Again, public safety is the price of admission. I mean, that's where it all begins and ends. And so there's not a lot of sexy stuff in this budget. We did, if you'll recall, a budget amendment to sort of put some one-time dollars to work. At that time, the economy was a lot better than it's looking these days. But we had a significant surplus that we could spend on a lot of one-time projects that we've been, proud to pursue. But this one is kind of a stopgap budget, honestly. There's not a ton in there that we are particularly proud of, but it will get us through the night.
Another priority in the proposed budget, parks and community spaces.
Yes. Saw
a provision in there for evolving our riverfront parks.
Yes. Now that is a notable one. We were fortunate to get a $15 million grant from the state. And I'm very much excited about the plan for riverfront parks, for the park at Riverfront Parkway there. And if you've been to DC and been to that wharf project, the same designer has done it. It's a really remarkable design, and I think we'll bring a lot of new people and a lot of enjoyment and a lot of shade, notably, to the riverfront that wasn't there before. It is very important, actually. Yeah.
Another priority in the proposed budget: affordable housing. Talk about where that is now and how this budget aims to take things to the next level.
Well, it's still the number one issue for our city. There's no question about it. And again, Rome was not rebuilt in a day, as they say. So a lot of this is funding the tools and doing the things we need to do to make sure that we have long-term housing affordability. And so it adds to that, as we will in every successive budget as long as I'm in office. The good news is we have a lot of new housing supply going up, and any new housing anywhere improves affordability everywhere, because at the end of the day, it is a supply and demand thing. And so, as new housing gets built, people move out of older housing, which then opens that up, and it's sort of a reverse cascade effect. But, that said, we have to, and we are, focusing on direct subsidies in certain cases, down payment assistance, and our new Invest Chattanooga initiative, which are really just now beginning to hit and get traction.
Let's talk about the Alton Park connector. The EPA canceling a $20 million grant to help complete the Alton Park connector extension to the Tennessee Riverwalk, a trail project that would link some of the most disconnected communities in the city. You had a lot to say about that on social media. Talk about it here.
Well, it's frustrating. Again, I understand the desire for government efficiency. Listen, I mean, I preach this mantra every day when we, in the way that we approach local government at the city level. But there is a difference between, there's a way to do this and a way not to do this, right? The commonly used analogy is fat and muscle. And, you want to cut fat. You don't want to ever cut muscle. And infrastructure, particularly infrastructure around, sustainability is a really super important part of who we are as Chattanoogans. The Riverwalk itself has created, untold millions of dollars of economic development, and it's really at the core of who we are. This is really just a Riverwalk extension, in, an underserved neighborhood, connecting communities, which is literally the name of the grant. That's what it's for. It runs right by and through Crabtree Farms, which not enough people have access to. It's one of Chattanooga's real crown jewels and real assets. And so, yeah, it's highly disappointing. I mean, again, we've enjoyed, over the course of many decades here, substantial continuity in government, even if one administration does not agree with the prior one does. And in this case, the project actually reflects, most, if not all, of the goals of the Trump administration. Again, maybe there was a word or two in the grant that they took objection to, but I mean, we probably don't have time to unpack, all that madness, but we are very disappointed that grant was retracted, and we're not going to give up on the project. So we're going to hopefully revisit it. I think we can convince our federal partners in the wisdom of the project, and if not, we'll break it down into smaller pieces and find other funding sources. But it will take a lot longer, and if we can do it at all.
You concluded your post on social media about this topic with, quote, "I hope that our partners at every level of government will work with us to re-examine this decision and get this important project back on track. As we have seen elsewhere from the federal level this year, some decisions get made, then they are reversed. Sometimes the courts weigh in on this."
Yeah, look, I think this is a semantic problem. But yes, I'm hopeful, without muddying the water further, that we can convince folks. I mean, again, I get that. The APA is not really, arguably it is odd for the EPA to be making, infrastructure grants, of this nature, right? I mean, I can see, but in this case, the work is the work is the work. And, I think we've kind of thrown out the baby with the bathwater on this one. So we're going to go back and see if we can get that the decision reversed.
Have you heard anything from any partners at any level of government that you can share at this point, or that's your next step?
Sympathy around the decision, and a commitment to re-examine it.
All right, let's go to the next topic.
Sure.
1 year of no homicides in Zone 3.
Well, I'm afraid that may have just come to an end. But it was great while it lasted. And, again, I don't have details to report, quite yet, but still, I mean, to have made it over a year in what was our most violent, district is nothing short of remarkable. And it proves that, the work, is working. It has been an incredible testament to, our community health department and the work that Chris Sands doing with the chain breakers and with our community development, where a lot of this is the meetings and things are taking place and the interventions. I mean, we knew that it wouldn't last forever. Summer months always become, more violent, but the numbers overall are moving in the right direction. And, what happened in Zone 3 there, for the year and change was, again, nothing short of remarkable, and proof that the strategies that we're using with the help of Norman Kerr are working. So at this point, we're going to be looking to double down and see how we can improve it and how we can, spread that across more areas of the city.
What's one thing that you've learned through that past year that you might not have known coming into City Hall or even most of your first term?
Well, that it was even possible. Again, this came out of participating in a Bloomberg Data Philanthropies cohort, where we had a bunch of people together from the city who were saying, well, what are our toughest problems, and what and what should we tackle, with data to try to solve it. And Chris Sands, who leads that work, said youth gun violence. And, which is, was quoted in the newspaper on that, but, it's a daunting problem, right? If you'd have told me that any amount of effort would have kept us from having a homicide for a year in our most violent, frankly, I would have not believed you, and so, it just goes to show that if you can get past the silos of city government and really work together and keep a focus on the kids, the at-risk kids and young adults who are the source of the problem, you can move the needle. You can actually have an impact. So, I mean, that frankly was somewhat surprising to me that it worked as well as it did.
Let's talk about One Westside.
Yeah.
Last month, a groundbreaking for the first phase of housing for One Westside, project to revitalize that neighborhood. When all 7 phases of the project are complete, projected by 2032, there will be more than 1,100 new housing units. Public housing units at College Hill Courts and Gateway Towers will be replaced. Chattanooga Housing Authority says no existing residents will be displaced. Talk more about how this as a major investment addresses the legacy of what came before and tries to get right compared to previous efforts to write a better chapter for the future.
Yeah. I mean, so this needed to happen before I was in office, and it was something that was on the drawing board for a long time. This was our oldest private, or rather public housing project. And so it was another one of those things. I mean, I came into office saying, we're going to try to do the hard things. We're going to, take the stuff that had been swept under the rug and bring it back out and do it. And so this was kind of exhibit A. This needed to be addressed. And we were able to do it, with both sort of wrapping in increment from the TIF from the bend, and with the partnership of Columbia Residential. So it's a really exciting project. It'll add new units. Again, we'll have some residents that are temporarily displaced, but they will be back in new housing. If you look at the 7 kind of pillars of the One Chattanooga plan, there's not one that's not represented in this project. So, in many, many ways, it will be kind of exhibit A, that we can look back on and say, we moved the needle. I'm very proud of the project.
Let's talk about National Park City. Just ahead of Earth Day last month, the city of Chattanooga became the first in North America and the third in the world after London and Adelaide, Australia, to earn the designation as a national park city. Talk more about how the community-driven process for Chattanooga's application either accelerated or even reshaped where the city was heading with its own Parks and Outdoors plan.
Yeah, I mean, they were incredibly consistent. When Scott Martin brought me that idea to begin with, it was almost, I don't know, it was so immediately resonated with me that it sounded as though the concept were written for Chattanooga. And of course it was up to the committee in the National Park City Foundation to decide whether or not that was a fit. And so the community led portion of it was key to their consideration. And, they fit hand in glove, right? And it's very encouraging. Now, there are some areas where I think we've identified through the process that we can kind of take up some slack. One of those is more of a focus on urban agriculture and supporting the local food movement. And so I think, we've already had some really interesting meetings about how we can beef that up and support it better. But I think the designation is really going to help us a ton, both as an organizing principle to help us understand who we are and our relationship to nature and to each other through nature, and, kind of defines the core of who we are as Chattanoogans.
Where do we have to lean on funding to carry any of this forward?
This is not a funding driven thing. This is really a grassroots community thing. And that's always been the case, both in London and Adelaide. And so, thank goodness this is not one of those things where we're, having to wait on the federal government or the state government or even the local government over and above some nominal funding for leadership and support, to make it work. We don't, it's not one of those dependent factors, thank goodness.
Let's talk about FIFA Club World Host City.
Yeah.
Chattanooga has been selected as the official team base camp host city for Auckland City Football Club of Auckland, New Zealand, during the FIFA Club World Cup 2025, taking place in June, beginning in June and running into July. This is a milestone as the tournament comes to this country for the first time.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a run-up. It's a dress rehearsal in many respects to the actual World Cup, where national teams will play each other. So this is an opportunity for FIFA, to kind of audition all these host cities. Now, we won't have games here, but it will be cool to have Auckland City here. They are certainly the underdogs in this tournament, and I know that resonates well with Chattanooga's culture. So we're really honored and excited to have them here, and I hope everybody will we'll get behind them while they are here. But they're playing Bayern Munich, I think up in Cincinnati. They're playing, I can't remember who they're playing now, but they're playing somebody up the road in Nashville. I intend to make the trip for that game, but it's a big deal. And again, this time next year, we'll be talking about hopefully, which national team from which country is going to be here. And that should drive, I'm not sure how many plane loads of people are going to come from Auckland, to follow the Auckland City FC. Hopefully they'll have some fans around for that. Be a big moment for soccer in Chattanooga and a big moment for soccer in this country. And just again, a dress rehearsal for an even bigger year next year.
What work did it take to make that happen, make them choose us?
No work on the front. We did the work back in the day, as a CFC co-founder and all the work that's been done to grow the soccer culture in this city over the last, 20 or so years. I think that was the work. And we really didn't do much of anything to deserve it. I will say Baylor School, threw their hat in the ring, and they have a great secluded location, and they have done a lot, to kind of roll out the red carpet, and really play hosts. So if it weren't for Baylor, we would not be getting it. That has to be said. But again, I think a lot of these teams are looking for a place they can train that's out of the way, that's not in the public eye, where they don't have to worry about their players going out and getting into trouble. And for better or for worse, Chattanooga is very much that city.
Let's talk about quantum. EPB buying a quantum computer for $22 million, expected to be operational early next year, partnering with IonQ, Maryland company that's already the primary tech partner for EPB's quantum network. Again, we're building up the capacity to unlock this potential that we call quantum.
Yeah, it's a big deal. IonQ is kind of the main primary first mover player in that space, and actually having, we've done experimentation with equipment on the network, with photons through Cubatech, but IonQ acquired Cubatech, and now IonQ actually putting a quantum computer in Chattanooga is a very big deal, and will allow us to do a lot of things with the network that we wouldn't have been able to do, including, hooking up to the large array of conventional computers up at Oak Ridge, supercomputing, the top supercomputing capacity in the country, but it has to be said with binary conventional computers. And so I think a lot of the experts will tell you that there's a lot that can be done through the hybrid of quantum computing and conventional computing. So, yeah, look, this is ultimately about economic development, and Chattanooga is going to look back on that day, I think, with a lot more import and significance than it might seem today. Because
when the gig was announced some years ago, there had to have been a sense, I wasn't here at that time, but there had to have been a sense, wow, this is really, really big. Whereas with quantum, there's a sense that this is big, but it might be hard for some people to wrap their heads around, because we're trying to unlock what that potential is. Newsflash. And I think some of your older listeners will remember as well. It was the same with the gig. Really? Yeah. Now people were like, what's anybody going to do with that? Why would anybody need a gig of internet speed? No, that was the narrative at the time. It was, so it takes vision, and, to do that, it took vision and confidence, and it took vision to do this. And so I think we will look back on it, at least with that much, gravity, if not more. And the possible real world applications from quantum. Let's just go through the list here. Cybersecurity, transportation, supply chains, logistics. Yeah. Many, 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 many more. You can model, weather. Again, you'll have insurance companies saying, let's run some weather simulations that will have implications for the way farmers plant and harvest crops. There's just, I'm not obviously a newsflash, a quantum physicist. I've read a ton. But, it's hard to overestimate just how, Michio Kaku, who sometimes is on this network, wrote a book about it, which I would recommend to everybody. But, it's hard to overestimate how much faster a quantum computer is than a conventional computer, even the largest supercomputers. It's going to fundamentally change the game. And one thing that's clear now, that was clear then, is the community partnerships involved. Here we're talking about EPB, we're talking about IonQ, but we're also talking about the city, we're talking about the Chattanooga Quantum Collaborative, and UTC. Yeah, and again, there's all these, in
there's some parallels here to like Volkswagen, for example, because Volkswagen was a big economic win for us, but the suppliers behind that, the people that make the tires and the wheels, and the frames and all that, in aggregate are bigger than VW itself. Similarly, somebody's got to write software for quantum computers, and be able to kind of tinker with that and try it out. So there are a lot of adjacent industries and verticals that I think that will be coming to Chattanooga behind this.
Let's talk about 311. The city has launched a new user-friendly 311 app and online portal.
Well, we had one before that was pretty good, but this one's better. And again, they've been working on this update for quite some time. You can now kind of drop a pin wherever your issue is rather than putting in an address. That's one thing. Soon we will get a chat bot in 311, and it may, with AI going as fast as it's going, it may, the whole thing may just wind up to be one big chat bot. If the chat bot's good enough, you just ask it rather than having to navigate through menus. But that one's not quite ready for prime time yet. But if you don't already have the 311 app, I would encourage everybody to download it. It's a great way if your garbage is missed or if you've got a leaf pickup, out in front of your house. It's the easiest way to do it. And so, download it if you hadn't already and stay tuned for more updates.
And there's also the phone number.
Yes, of course.
For 311.
Yep.
And let's talk about Richard.
Let's talk about Richard.
Richard Winham announcing his retirement here at WUTC.
Well, it had to happen sometime. And he certainly deserves his quiet rest and his leisure, but man, we'll certainly miss him. I mean, I can't, his voice will always be associated with this station for me. And, over the last, God, I don't know how many years it's been, but, it's, our heartiest congratulations, on his retirement. And, gosh, I think we have to find some appropriate way to honor Richard. And, but he's just made such a contribution to enriching our culture. I mean, again, I may be the only person whose musical tastes are as strange as Richard's. And that's what I've always enjoyed most about his programs on the station and his commitment to local artists, right? I mean, it's just been such a great fit for Chattanooga. They will be impossibly large shoes to fill, but I certainly hope somebody steps up and tries.
And speaking of honoring him, we are doing that next month with a concert, part celebration, part fundraiser for WUTC, set for Sunday, June 22nd at Barrel House Ballroom.
I will be there. I may drink a beer. Yeah.
Many people there may drink a beer. Yeah. I live one block over, so I don't have to drive anything. I don't have to ride a bike or any of that. It's going to be a great day, a lot of celebration and a lot of reminiscences. And we have a concert link online at our website, WUTC.org, and our social media. You have to have all these reminiscences that are coming to mind now about Richard.
Yeah, I mean,
tell me one story.
Well, I almost had him talked into doing the announcing for CFC way back in the day, and he wisely thought better of it. But, back in those days, it was very much a shoestring operation that me and, 2 or 3 guys ran the entire control room and the music and all that. And, we're not able to make that come together. But, again, we sponsored Nightfall for years before I was in the mayor's office. And, listen, I mean, again, he's just been, an integral part of the best part of Chattanooga's, musical culture for all those years. And I don't know what he's got planned in retirement, but I hope he hangs around.
Well, we are looking forward to celebrating him, honoring him. We're looking forward to him getting the break that he deserves.
Yes.
He has indicated that he would still like to do things with the station in some capacity, but that's a conversation for him and station leadership, and that will continue. But
maybe he'll run for mayor. That's probably what he should do.
Well, at this point, if he announced a campaign, that's a very long campaign cycle, even by contemporary standards.
Yeah, it would be. He's got some time to think about it.
All right. And again, as we always do at the end of these conversations, if people want to keep up on everything at the city of Chattanooga, where can they go online?
Chattanooga.gov, as always. And again, the website is updated, working much better than it used to. And you can find more or less anything you want to see there.
All right. Chattanooga Mayor Tim Kelly, thanks so much.
Thank you.